When you throw a piano down a mine shaft, A flat minor. Come on. Come on. Yeah, oh, you act like you don't like it. I know you're going to tell that. I know you're going to tell that. All right. So fundamentally, I think there are two types of people in the world. There are people who see the glass half empty, and there are people who see the glass half full. And I think that's pretty much how most people go through life. And so as you're sitting here, just think of which category you fall into. Am I somebody who sees the glass half empty all the time? Nothing is enough. There is not enough. There will never be enough. Even what there is evaporating, right? Or are you somebody who sees the glass half full? That you're somebody who looks at your life and on a daily basis, you say, wow, I am so blessed. There is so much good in my life. My life is filled with such wonderful people. My life is filled with, isn't it amazing? My life is filled with the people I love. How did God work that out? That's just incredible. That the actual people I love on the planet are in my life. That's just extraordinary to me. You know, it really is a way that it's like the lens that we look through life at. So I will confess that I've been trying to teach my older sister metaphysics for years. And I've been feeding it to her very, very gently under the auspices of other things, okay? So I admit that's manipulative, and I trust that she will not watch this talk on the internet, so I'm going to talk about her. And one of the things we started to talk about is how difficult it is for good things to happen in life if you are that person that always sees the glass as half empty. If your fundamental message, the message of your energy and your thought out into the universe is nothing ever works out for me, good things never happen, I always get disappointed, oh, I don't want to get my hopes up because then I'll just be sad if it doesn't work out. If that's the way you go through life, that's how life has to meet you. That's exactly where life has to meet you. Now, if you go through life the other way, with, good people are everywhere. Good always happens out of everything. The universe is always trying to do me good. My saying is that I'm an inverse paranoid. I think the universe is conspiring behind my back to do me good. Yes, that I think it's always coming, that I think good is always, always, always coming. Good comes out of everything. Good comes out of everything. If I go to a restaurant and they're out of what I was going to order, that must mean it wasn't very good and that the universe has something better on the menu for me. It's like, oh, that probably wasn't very good, or it went bad, or it was so good other people ate it, but they have something even better for me. So my point about this that I've been talking with my sister a lot about, and you know when you've got it and it's in that talking school, you hear it, it makes sense to you, and you run out and share it with everybody? So this is where my sister is. My sister works in a hospital back east, and so she says she now has all the women on her floor in the hospital saying, well, nothing good comes from negativity. Well, nothing good comes from negativity. Life just works a lot better when you have an affirmative outlook, when you have a positive outlook on things, when you expect good things to happen, they can happen. So the principle, now this is actually spiritually principled, that having an affirmative outlook on life, it's much easier for God to bless you. But you're putting walls up when you see everything is wrong or things never work out or I'm going to be disappointed, who's going to want me anyway, I didn't study enough for the DMV test so I'm probably going to lose my license, whatever it is, the universe is responding to our predominant belief. Right? And so if what we say is that nothing good comes from negativity, that also the opposite is true. That means that when we have a life-affirming attitude, when we see the glass half full, it's much easier for God's good to come into our life, for God to bless us. It just works much more easily that way. So in the Psalms it says, the Lord is my light and my salvation, in whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life, from whom shall I be afraid? I like the Psalms. They make it really, really plain for me. Science of Mind says that God is one, that there's one God everywhere, equally present. The word is omnipresent. So if God is everywhere equally present, that would mean that I am such an exception to the rule if God were not present where I am. Now, the truth is, who do you and I think that we are, that God could be everywhere in the universe except in the situation that we find ourselves in? God absolutely has to be there. And we say, well, it doesn't seem like it. What's the problem? Well, the problem is that it's my job to remember that. It's my job to know that. Now, I'm not saying you're going to be silly and go out and live your life and not pay attention. A friend of mine's mother, who was in truth, she used to always say, we temper healing with wisdom. Right? And so what she meant by that is you don't just walk out into the street. You look both ways. All right? So you put a little wisdom in there before you cross the street. And yeah, I trust I'm going to make it across the street, but I'm also going to look before I step off the curb. So, in the 1800s, Mary Baker Eddy, who was the founder of Christian Science, a teaching that is not unlike religious science, so remember, in the middle 1800s, medicine was not very much, and she was very ill, and they didn't really know what to do with her, so basically they put her cot in the kitchen near the stove where she could be warm, and they said, well, you're probably going to die. Yeah, so you may as well die in the kitchen, die warm. And so she lay there on her cot reading her Bible. Right? And she kept reading the words of Jesus in the Bible. And what happened is she got struck by lightning from the inside out. That something happened in her. Something in her thinking, in her consciousness changed. And she got up out of that bed. And she said, well, I don't think I'm going to die today. I'm paraphrasing, of course, I have to start a great big religion. And I'm going to teach people how to change their consciousness and change their life, which is exactly what she did. So I think when we're looking at our life and what we're seeing is that the glass is half empty, I think what we get to ask ourselves is, what's the consciousness I need to have in this situation so that I can turn it around and say, no, my glass is half full. In fact, my glass is half full and filling up all the time. Because the universe is always conspiring for our good. Ernest said that God is a principle of life, and life can never be against itself. And yet, we pretend again and again and again that God, that life, that the universe is somehow against us. And it's just not so. It's just absolutely not so. But the way the universe is wired is you and I, we get what we expect. Don't we? You know how that is. You know how that is. I know people who say, well, things never work out for me. I always get disappointed. And what do you think the result of that is? Things never work out for them, and they're always disappointed. Now, I was listening to a tape of Joel Goldsmith, who was also another truth teacher, the other day. And he said something that I thought was really interesting. And he said that, when we come into this game, there are a number of things that are influencing us. There's our prenatal influence. So when you're in the womb, and I'll also include that time before, there are things that influence you. And then there is your early life and education and family and your own experience in the world. And we sort of cobble together how we think life operates. Right? But I also know that there are other people, perhaps just on the other side of the street or the other side of the table, the other side of the bed, who see it completely differently. Isn't that just the most amazing thing? I just think that that's extraordinary. That we can, my mother says all the time, this is a joke in our family, she says, I had 3 kids, I fed you all the same thing, you all got the same number of birthday and Christmas presents, and I swear, I don't know how you're all so different. I don't know how you're all so different. And so what I think that difference has to do is that difference has to do with our soul's journey. That every soul came in with different, what I'll call assignments, that we all came here with our own evolution. We came here with some things to learn, some areas in which we grow. We also came here with something to heal. The way Ernest said it is everyone comes in with a gift to give, a lesson to learn, and a debt to pay. And I like that. Okay, everyone comes in with a gift to give. And so I start by saying, wow, if I'm looking at life and I'm not seeing the glass as half full, if in fact I'm seeing it half empty, am I giving my gift? Am I giving my gift? If I see the glass half empty, maybe the problem is I haven't learned the lesson I'm supposed to be learning. That there's something that my soul came here to learn. And if I continue to see the glass half empty as opposed to half full, maybe it's because there's some kind of, I don't know, karmic debt or something that I'm supposed to complete, finish, pay off, do good with, that I haven't done yet. I just think it's interesting to look. It's interesting ways to look and check within and see, am I really, really doing what I came here to do? Because, the way it works, I believe, is that from the scripture, the Lord is my light and my salvation. Your Lord is your predominant mental attitude. Your Lord is your conviction. Your Lord is your belief about yourself and your belief about life. Because that affects the outcome of all that you do. It affects the outcome of everything you and I that we experience, right? It's happening all the time. Because the principle is this. The principle is as within, so without. So if you go through life with a glass half empty attitude, as within, so without, you will find again and again and again that you will be disappointed, that things do not measure up, that things do not turn out, that there is no place for you. Oh, we just sold the last ticket. I'm so sorry. And so knowing that no good can come from that, and also knowing that God is present, everywhere equally present, that's how we could move to a glass half full attitude in life. That things are always working for my good. How can I say that? Because the principle of life is never against itself. The principle of life is always for a fuller and greater expression of itself. Well, what does that mean? That God gets to be God. God puts more love in the world, more creativity, more joy in the world by means of each and every one of us. So your life working really is a wonderful expression of God. You being happy and in a career you love and doing well in school or whatever you're doing, that is how God gets expressed in the world. Which is why I think it's so important that we not say no to those impulses. When something within us says, you should paint a picture, or you should write a song, or you should write a poem. And something that says, oh, no, I can't do that. I haven't done that in a long time. And, it'll never sell. And it's like, some things are not about selling. Isn't that amazing? That some things are not about selling. And I know because we live in a culture where we're always trying to sell something or we're always being sold something, that sometimes you just do something because it's the right thing to do. Imagine. I know that sounds like the Cub Scout within me, but I'm telling you, it's true. It's really true because you write that poem or whatever it is, and then there's the next thing that's trying to bubble up from within you, and the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. And this, I believe, is really how God gets revealed. And when that's taking place in our life, it's really easy to see that good is happening everywhere. I know there's an enormous agreement for all the bad stuff that's happening on earth. But think about this. There are more people praying and meditating today on the face of the earth than there have ever been. I think that's very encouraging. There are more people participating in charitable works and doing good programs than have ever existed on the face of the earth. Now, I know we could talk about the other side too, but I want to see the glass half full, right? So I think it's important to notice that there are more people doing consciousness work, trying to raise the vibration and the energy and the light that's on the planet than has ever been in the history of humanity. So I think that gives me something personally to say, okay, I can be on the affirmative side of life here, because it's very easy to gather evidence for the negative, isn't it? It's really, really easy. You know exactly what station to turn on. If you want to go down the drain in the next 5 minutes, you know what station to turn on, And you can listen and you can get yourself really depressed, and the next thing you know, you'll be laying down on the carpet, just saying, what's the point? Picking up a 5-pound bag of refined white sugar and pouring it in. And what I see with that is that fear is like a cloud. It becomes the obstacle. When we focus on what's wrong and what's missing and who's not in my life and, and what they're not giving me at work, when we focus on those things, that becomes like a cloud. So if if you were standing out in the parking lot and there was a cloud, the sun maybe would not be shining on you. That doesn't mean the sun is not shining, right? It just means that there's something obstructing the sun from shining on you, right? So if you maybe moved across the street or to another couple of parking spaces down in the parking lot, you could just as easily be standing in the sun. Because although you might be standing under the cloud, there are lots of other people in the world who are currently standing in the sun. Right? So that's another way maybe to say that God's light, that God's blessing is shining upon people, but we have to be in a place to receive it. Right? That if God's good is infinite, and I believe it is, I believe that God's good for each and every one of us is absolutely infinite. And some people are really gracious receivers. And my hope and my prayer for all of us is that we all would learn to become gracious receivers. So think about this. If this feels so for you, I'm not going to make anybody raise their hands, so don't worry. Some people have a hard time receiving a compliment. If you can't receive a compliment, or you don't even want to let anybody buy you a cup of coffee when you're out with a friend, oh, no, I'll do it, I'll take care of it, no. How are you going to receive the bigger things that the universe is trying to bring you, like a healing? Like your right and perfect partner, like the job of your dreams. How are you going to receive those things when you can't say yes and be a gracious receiver for the little things? Because that's where we start. We start by being a gracious receiver for the little things that the universe is trying to bring into our life. So you wake up and you smell the coffee and you just go, oh, God, another day. Oh, or God, I love the smell of coffee. And I do. I love the smell of coffee. I'm a coffee nerd, but I love it, I admit. And then, you take your dogs out for a walk and you go, oh, God, I got to scoop up after the dogs. Well, that's one way to look at it. Or you could say, what? I love these dogs so much. It's my joy and my privilege to pick up after them because they add so much love to my life. And while I'm out looking at that, I admit I'm a nosy person. I look at everybody's yard. I look and see what all the work people are doing on their houses, And what I see is that things are getting better. Things are getting better. Have you noticed people are working on their houses and people are changing their yards, And because the principle is that you get what you look for, right? You get what you look for. And so if you look for people to disappoint you, they will. Isn't that amazing? And then we say, oh, I knew they were going to disappoint me. And it's like, but you don't realize that you set that up. You were an integral part of that. But by the same token, when you raise people up and your thinking is, I know they can do it. I know they can do it. And you say to them, I have faith in you. I believe in you. I know you're going to do well here. People tend to rise up to that. Isn't that also amazing? So that's why we're in the game together, I think. And this the last piece I want to say about this is that, if God is love, and we believe that God is love, where we're afraid, where we're negative, that blocks love out. So where fear is, love cannot be there. All right? So it becomes our job, because your mind can only focus on one thing. I know everybody multitasks, but really your mind can only hold one thought in any given instant. All right? And so either that will be something that supports greater life and greater love, or it's something that's going to take us down the drain. And we get to decide. So my encouragement to us this week is, what do we expect? I'm not even going to tell you what to expect, but I'll hint, right? I hope you will expect good. But if you don't, just know that the way the universe is wired is that's what the universe is going to bring you. What do you expect? Let's pray. So we turn our attention inward now, recognizing that right here, God is fully present. That the power and love and intelligence of the entire universe is right here where we are. That we are surrounded by it, we are filled by it. That God within each of us is the truth of our being. And so as we join in consciousness today, I claim for each and every one of us that yes, we know that God is everywhere equally present. And that yes, our attitude and our conviction and our belief has everything to do with how we're experiencing life. So I claim for each and every one of us that we stand on the affirmative side of life, trusting that everything everything, regardless of how it looks, everything is working together for our greater good. So I claim for us that we just move through life in the days and week ahead with an attitude of expectancy. We include in our prayer our family members, our friends, our loved ones. We see them in our mind's eye, and we surround them with love. We know that right where they are, God is, and that good is happening for them, that healing is taking place, that love is the order of the day. We bless our church, and we bless all churches everywhere, synagogues and temples and mosques and ashrams, all paths to God. We let our prayer be a blessing in the world. So those situations that look particularly difficult, that make us fearful or doubting, we say God is right there in the midst of that, as peace, as power, as abundant supply, as harmony and reconciliation. God is right there. And so again, I know that we are blessed by being together in consciousness today, that we all get lifted up. And so with an open, gracious, full heart, I give thanks that this is so. I release this word, and so it is. Together we all say, Amen.